Welcome into episode 10 of Directed by Steven Spielberg. I hope you're enjoying this series as much as I am. With this 10th entry, we're very much into the thick of Spielberg's career at this point, and we're very much into the first arc of his drama films, starting off which was the previous film, The Color Purple, to now, which is today's film, Empire of the Sun. This film had been on my radar for a long time, but I'd never gotten around to watching it until now. I was always curious to witness the acting chops of a young Christian Bale, and this film very much has him front and center. Whilst this is technically Spielberg's third film set during the World War II era, the first two being 1941 and Raiders of the Lost Ark, this is the first film where he does a proper exploration into the subject matter of the war. A subject matter that he would go on to explore further in his future films. So let's check out Empire of the Sun and find out how it compares to his prior filmography. Empire of the Sun follows the journey of a young British boy named Jamie Graham, whose privileged life in Shanghai is upended by the outbreak of World War II. As the Japanese forces invade, Jamie is separated from his parents during the chaotic evacuation and must fend for himself in a city gripped by war. Captured and placed in a Japanese internment camp, Jamie's resilience and adaptability come to the fore. He forms a bond with Basie, an American hustler who becomes a surrogate father figure, teaching him the harsh realities of survival. Amidst the bleakness of the camp, Jamie retains a fervent fascination with aviation, dreaming of becoming a pilot. As the war draws to a close, the camp's conditions continue to deteriorate and Jamie's hope and innocence are tested to their limits. The Allies eventually free Jamie and the prisoners, the film concluding with Jamie reuniting with his parents, who find him at an orphanage. As mentioned, this was my first time watching Empire of the Sun, and my first impressions are very strong. The film is beautifully shot, sublimely acted, and perfectly paced. Spielberg brilliantly tells the story of how World War II affected China and Japan through the eyes of a young British boy separated from his parents. It expertly contrasts the decadence of the rich against the desperation of the poor and how no amount of riches can save you when the system crumbles around you. Spielberg dips deep into his bag of tricks throughout this film to bring all of the subject matter to life. Starting off, the tracking shots are superb. The first instance that comes to mind is when Jamie is walking through the recently war-torn Shanghai, and the camera follows him in a continuous shot as he passes by the sheer poverty surrounding him. It's a highly effective shot as it helps capture the state of the world in which young Jamie is so innocently passing through. You can't help but feel that if they broke this shot up into multiple angles, the feeling and mood of the situation would not come across anywhere near as much. There's numerous examples of great tracking shots throughout this film, but one of the other great uses of it is towards the end of the film when the aerial battle is taking place over the concentration camp, as Jamie marvels at the aircrafts engaged in a dogfight. The camera follows Jamie from side to side as he eagerly observes the various maneuvers. It's another incredibly effective tracking shot because it really does justice to the enormity and scale of aerial combat. From an emotional standpoint, we can really feel how close the conflict is to our protagonist. But also from an analytical standpoint, as the audience, we get a chance to fully appreciate the complexity of the choreographed set piece. There's also Spielberg lights at every turn in this film, whether it be the streams of light peering through windows, creating that saturated light source from outside the dark, claustrophobic rooms that this film often spends time in, or the endless sunset shots hinting at the ever-elusive freedom on the horizon. We even have a couple instances of concealment, as shown in this scene when Jamie meets Basie for the first time, and Spielberg chooses to keep his face concealed for a moment before revealing him. This appears to be used in a way to keep the audience guessing as to whether he is a friendly or unfriendly figure, which reflects the same feeling that Jamie experiences within the context of the scene. Also, what an impactful moment it is when Jamie discovers the Japanese soldiers on the outskirts of his home. I love the instant change of tone from pure innocence to immediate danger and the way the camera pans to reveal the concealed soldiers. Notice as well as Jamie spends a vast chunk of the film in a red blazer. This is a clever way to highlight his presence, particularly in those scenes with thousands of extras. This wouldn't be the first time either that Spielberg would put a child in red clothes to draw attention to them. Empire of the Sun may exclusively cover many of the events of World War II, but the story at its core revolves around the theme of loss of innocence. Jamie is a young British boy, born into privilege and shielded his whole life by his parents from surrounding threats whilst living abroad. The first 40 minutes of the film details the slow deterioration of the situation around them, culminating in Jamie being separated from his parents during a violent mob, leading to a life of poverty and imprisonment. From there, the film very much becomes about Jamie's daily struggle for survival and how the childish traits he exhibits early on in the film slowly start to fade away as he realizes he must grow up if he is to survive. The film still highlights his childlike nature, but holds it in check by constantly throwing him in situations where he must do things beyond his years. He's seen numerous times showing respect to the Japanese fighter pilots, despite the Japanese being the ones holding him captive. This speaks to his innocence in the face of utter oppression, that he would look past all dividing lines of conflict and the desire to be free, that he would still acknowledge the brave men who fight for their country, doing the thing he always wished he could do, pilot a plane. This is on clear display as the aerial battle takes place over their concentration camp, and he watches on, emphatically admiring the feats of the pilots. Speaking of which, whilst the loss of innocence is very much central to this film's underlying theme, from a character perspective, Jamie's true character arc is finally revealed in the third act when Jamie admits he can't remember what his parents look like. It's an absolutely heartbreaking moment and beautifully contrasted by Jamie's positive mood only moments prior. It's a culmination for his character that sums up his feelings all along and why he buries his attention into keeping busy with so many things and tries to make light of the difficult situations he finds himself in. It adds even more weight when you think about that his goal all along is to reunite with his parents, yet he can't remember what they look like. We are meant to think that the film is about Jamie's reuniting with his parents, but it's really about him doing everything he can to run away from the thoughts of missing his parents and even forgetting them. Tragic, yet powerful stuff. Speaking of Jamie, I would be remiss to not draw attention to Christian Bale's performance in this role. Most of us know Bale to be a phenomenal actor in his adult years, but his performance in Empire of the Sun is proof that this man was born with the gift for acting. Only 13 years old at the time of filming, yet exudes the confidence and emotional range of an acting veteran. Considering the film relies significantly on his sole performance, he carries this burden with ease and succeeds with flying colors. Whilst Bale deserves much of the praise for his performance, Spielberg's direction is so clear and precise that you can see how a young actor is allowed the chance to thrive. And it speaks to a pattern that he was developing at this point in his career by capturing great performances from children in the likes of E.T., The Color Purple, and now Empire of the Sun. There's a host of characters that factor into this film, but I'll stick to focusing on the most key supporting character, and that is Basie, played by John Malkovich. An American expat trading his way through Shanghai who initially rejects Jamie but eventually takes him under his wing and acts as a somewhat father figure for Jamie throughout the film. Malkovich also gives a great performance, towing that difficult line of the morally grey character who can never be truly trusted. Every time you think he truly cares for Jamie, he reminds us that when push comes to shove, he'll always put himself first. All in all, Empire of the Sun is an incredibly well-made war film that beautifully executes all the themes and emotions it seeks to convey. It takes us on an epic journey, told through the eyes of a child, and reminds us of the bitter realities that war places in front of us and how it affects the most innocent. And that is episode 10 of Directed by Steven Spielberg. Empire of the Sun marks another incredible entry into Spielberg's filmography, and I'm glad that I finally took the opportunity to watch this remarkable film. This is a tough film to score, however, as it was brilliantly executed, but I'm also well aware that there are some future films in Spielberg's filmography pertaining to war themes, which I think are actually superior to this one. With that said, I'm going to give Empire of the Sun an 8.5 out of 10, which equals the score of Jaws, but I'm going to place it just below Jaws in 4th place because I just love Jaws just a little bit more. And because this is episode 10, I thought we would do a recap of the current rankings so far in this series. As you can see, E.T. is currently in 1st place, followed by the rest of the films that you can see here. So that concludes episode 10 of Directed by Steven Spielberg. The next film on the list is a return to the familiar, and that is with Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. As you know, I am a massive fan of the Indiana Jones films, and whilst I have seen The Last Crusade many times, I am looking forward to watching it once again for this series. But until then, I thank you all for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.